you who know me and who are close to me, I was part of the Ladysmith Ratepayers Association. And it took a lot of time and a lot of effort. I know what went through in terms of serving on a body like a Ratepayers Association. And when I moved to Durban, um, I actually, it was a choice to stay away from it, because you either in it for the full hog, or you just don't do it. And once you put your foot or you dip your toe in the water, there's no turning back. And this is where I find myself 5 or 6 years later for Ethekiwni. In fact, when I was part of the Ladysmith Ratepayers Association, and for those of you who are familiar with Ratepayers Association, years back, I'm talking maybe 15, 18 years back, there was an effort to unite the ratepayers of Ethekiwni. And it was called the United Ratepayers Association, or something very similar, also born out of Westville. So it's actually weird that I ended up staying in Westville. But the reason why I talk about that meeting is I was actually invited to that particular meeting to try and get the ratepayers associations under Ethekiwni under one umbrella. The meeting was in the Westville Country Club. I still remember it like it was yesterday. But the reason I'm talking about this is the effort that needs to come from us as ratepayers, as individuals, is huge. And we've got a few councillors in the house, and I've always been taken to task by my team, by EXCO, for not talking out in terms of the struggles that we put ourselves under, and also the victories. I don't tend to go out there and brag and say we did this or we achieved that. They know me very well. We don't do that. We simply get the work done and we move on. And we do it simply because we do it in the interest of the community. We're not doing it for name, we're not doing it for fame. There's no monetary gain by any one of us sitting on EXCO. In fact, more often than not, we find ourselves digging into our own pocket to actually get the work done. So many of in fact, all of the officials or EXCO members, their phone calls are not even paid for. It's their own personal airtime or contracts that they're using in order to make the changes. So the reason why we still exist, I mean, we went to court on many occasions. Many of you would be aware of it. We lost twice, and we lost wood cost, and it set us back. And many would have folded and said, you know what, this is just too much for us. Let's just pack it up and call it a day. We've been to many meetings where it's been of a similar nature, where 60% of the people in the room are part of the association. Very few people will actually make time for their own benefit. I mean, the work that we're doing is not for us. In fact, to be honest with you, where I stay, I can simply just put my head on the pillow and sleep, and I'll be fine. I don't have water issues. I don't have regular power cuts. I don't have sewer issues. It wouldn't affect my life, significantly. But the reason we do it is for those who don't have a voice. And many people, even for a while after the previous ratepayers associations, it was mainly made up of elderly people. And they, after they retired or passed on, no one wanted to continue the work. And for a while, there was no ratepayers associations in Ethekiwni. In fact, it was I would say it was a travesty, because we had a mayor by the name of Zandile Gumede. And we all know under her administration what went on in Ethekiwni. And at that particular time, there was a bigger need to have a ratepayers association, and we didn't have. But the fact of the matter remains that if we don't stand up, no one's going to come and make the change. And The good part, and you know, if I really want to give myself a tap on the back, when we started the Westville Ratepayers Association, there was no other Ratepayers Association. They were there in name and they were there in principle, but they were not active. We were the first Ratepayers Association to stand up and be bold and to call out the inefficiencies of the city. And when we started to do this, it ignited something amongst the other associations where they were kind of dormant, and in some areas where they didn't exist, they then started to exist. And they were bold enough to start doing exactly what we started to do, so to call out the municipality and to not be scared about it. So in that regard, I feel quite happy. And then as Westville Ratepayers Association grew, other ratepayers associations resonated with us, and we came together and we formed a body called the Ethekiwni Ratepayers Protest Movement. So as Rose mentioned, there's a few of us, Mr. Vic sitting in the crowd, Rose, myself, we sit on both those boards. So we sit on the Westville Ratepayers Association and we sit on ERPM. And then, like I said, there's still a few people that are sitting here, Dave, Poovi, I don't know if I'm, all the Daves, yeah, that are here today. Now I'm talking about Westville now. So they're part of the Westville, they were part of the journey from the start, and they're still with us. And then, like Rose is mentioning, we've got Lynn, the chairperson from the New Germany Pinetown Ratepayers Association. We've got Margaret and Susan and her husband, who unofficially is a member, but he just chooses to you know, be under the radar. But he is with us in most meetings. And the crux of this, and this is where people don't understand the gravity of the situation. So we were in a wastewater treatment this week. I think it was Thursday morning. And the issue was raw sewage. And many of you are familiar with that issue. And we were sitting with the officials, and I'm sure they, you know, this is being recorded, so I'm not afraid of saying whatever I need to say. But the solutions that they put forward are not tangible solutions, or they're not thought out solutions, if I may put it to you. And we raised two particular issues. One was the Palmit River, and the other was an issue affecting a hospital. And we did an on-site visit on the hospital, and the Palmit River, we were given assurance that come this weekend, all the issues affecting the Palmit River would be fixed. So come Monday, and if it's not fixed, and this is where we differ from any other organization, we will ensure that we do a follow-up and get the Palmit fixed. Now the Palmit issue, for those of you who are familiar with it, is a long-standing issue. It goes back almost 20 years. It doesn't only affect Westville, it affects Pinetown, it affects New Germany. And as the pollution in the river moves along, it affects many other communities. Now, the reason why I'm talking about it is we had to put our foot down. And if we didn't put our foot down, none of this would have happened. And I'm not saying that it's because of us, or now that the permit is going to get fixed, because the official did mention there was budget that was approved. But be that as it may, the fact is we pushed for it. So the budget may have been there, but it wasn't being used. And now we're saying we don't want to hear any more excuses. It must get fixed. So let's hold our fingers. Let's hope it does get fixed. And we're not doing this to put naughty badges on our shoulders. We're doing this because it's an environmental issue. And we shouldn't be accepting of this. We should not be accepting that our rivers are polluted. We should not be accepting that we are having regular outages. We should not be accepting our streetlights don't work. We should not be accepting that there are potholes. Because one of the discussions that we had with an executive director, not this week, last week, was we said, and we made this very, very clear, you have budget to go and party. So you have 20 million rand music concert. You have all of these nice to haves. But we don't have an effective running city. Now, 2 days ago, there was a court order against the city wherein an individual fell into a manhole, an open manhole, and got injured. And the argument that was presented in court was we don't have the budget. And the court maintained whether you have the budget or you don't have the budget, the duty and the responsibility lies upon you as a city to ensure that it is functional. Now, we sitting here in this room, and those of you watching as well, it's up to us to ensure that whatever monies that goes into the city coffers are used in the right space. Now, previously, the city did as they pleased, and we made them aware that, hold on, we are the ratepayers. We fund this city. And there are other individuals who benefit who don't fund the city. And we don't have an issue with you funding externally because, again, everyone has a right to human life and to dignity. So we don't have an issue with that. But where we have an issue is when you are parting with that money. Where we have an issue is if that money is not being used correctly. Where we have a issue if it is fruitless and wasteful. Then yes, we have an issue. Now, I know Rose has been quite vocal about this. The city has now implemented 3 debt write-offs, 50% write-offs. And it's all well and good. It's well and good because, again, many people are struggling and we feel for them. So you owe the city an X amount of money and they're giving you a 50% write-off and you feel, okay, you know what, I can reach this, and you pay it. But the sad part is the majority of people who are actually benefiting from this are not the middle income earners who owe the city 10,000 or 20,000. We're talking about rich business individuals who are owing the city millions. And for them to fork out half of 10 million, it's easy for them. But for someone who's living on paycheck to paycheck or from hand to mouth, even looking for 5,000 rand is difficult. And this is the issue that we have. But the reason why people are in debt, the root cause, is because of our tariffs. The tariffs are unaffordable. So what happens, people can't afford to pay. And when you can't afford to pay, you get into debt. Then come 6 months later, the city offers you a 50% reduction, then you run and you take it. But in that issue, and I see one of the reporters who reported on that issue, Mr. Zain from IOL, is in the house. He reported on this article that councillors and municipal staff owe the city 80 million rand. Now, if your own councillors and your own staff can't afford to pay the city, how do they expect you and me to be able to pay? It's ridiculous. So what we are basically saying is the need for active citizenry, and again, for us, for those of you who've made the time, and we really appreciate it, the fact that you've made the time to come here and to listen to us. We do this for you. To see you present in this meeting encourages us to do more. And that's the reason why we've stayed focused. And eventually, like I said, we went to court twice, we lost twice, and we lost with cost. We went the last time to court, and we won with cost. So we didn't give up the fight. And we will continue this fight. And we will ensure that we make the city workable. Because at the end of the day, it's your future, it's our future, it's our children's future, and it's our children's children's future. So we can't shy away from that. We will do what we need to do. We'll welcome the the support that we get from our members and from whoever else wants to support us, and we will continue doing what we need to do. So that's my message in terms of active citizenry. Then, we ended up in a discussion point for a long, long time. And for those of who serve on both the Westville Ratepayers Association and on ERPM, they know my position in terms of entering into politics. And for a long while, I've been trying to brush it away, but like anything, what can I say, mutiny, whatever you want to call it, the noises become louder and louder and louder, and everyone starts to talk and talk and talk, and eventually the ones wanting this, the voices wanting this was much louder than my voice. So I entertained the idea. And basically, the position that we find ourselves in, there's only so much that we can do from the outside. And we've realized that. And we've looked at different scenarios. We've looked across the world, in fact, to be honest with you, in terms of civil society or civic movements across the world. And no matter how strong they became in terms of support, there was very little they could do from the outside. And that's the truth. So that voice became louder and louder and louder, until it came to a point where those around me were saying, we need to step into that space. And the reason we need to step into that space is because we want to be the adult in the room. So when, again, I'm using this example that when we started off as a Ratepayers Association, many councillors didn't even know what they needed to do. They didn't know what their core function is. They didn't even know how to get what they needed to do. In fact, many of them today still exist. We then had to show them as a councillor, this is what you do. These are the questions you can even ask in council. And we've seen that change. And we support that, and we got no issue with it. In fact, many parties today will say, we did this, we achieved that, blah, 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 and we clap for them. But it was us who taught you. So we got no issue with that. The problem that we have is leadership. I've said this before, I've said it many, many times, that we are electing people across the board, and I'm not picking on anyone or any party, but across the board, whether it's an ANC, EFF, IFP, DA, whatever, we have a leadership crisis. So you may vote for a party, but the person who gets elected doesn't represent the people he was elected for. And we see this, and it's problematic for us. Many of these councillors sitting in council don't know the different acts, as an example. So as a Ratepayers Association, one of my driving point was, if you wish to serve on this organization, you must be familiar with the Municipal Systems Rates Act as a start. If you don't, how are you going to fight for the people? Because you don't know how to help them. You must be familiar with the Structures Act. You must be familiar with the Municipal Finance Management Act. You must be familiar with all of these things so that you know when you're talking to an official, you know how to deal with that official. So based on that, the committee felt that the time has come where we need to be the adult in the room. And when we're saying in the room, we mean in council. So to show what can be achieved and how it should be done. So we looked at the pros, we looked at the cons. In fact, a lot of work was done by Rose and by MP. They've been working together on this. So in that regard, I did mention to her in a meeting, I'm going to hand that over to her. She needs to present it to you guys. And based on that, we will then need to take a mandate. Because again, we're saying, or we took a decision as the association, we wouldn't want to do this. unless our members want us to do it. So we'll take a mandate from the members, and if the overwhelming vote is that yes, you should, then we will. But if the vote says no, you shouldn't, we'll remain as we are. So I'm going to hand over back to Rose, and she'll take you through the election manifesto, what we as ERPM is looking for. In fact, when we drafted this, or when the work was being done, the idea was that we would take this document to the different parties. We take it to the DA, we take it to all the parties and say, this is what we would like. And if you subscribe to this, then you will have our support. So that's how it started. And today, unfortunately, it's now evolved into an ERPM manifesto. So I'll hand over to Rose, and she can take you guys through this. And then after that, we'll take a vote, and we'll open the floor to questions. And you guys can put questions to us, and there'll be a Q&A. We don't want it to be a long session. I saw already 2 people walked out, so maybe they don't like my voice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, just a caveat before I present the draft manifesto. This is under duress, and this is a very reluctant presentation of this, because we have resisted the political arena for the longest time, mostly because please to those present and those who are active and competent, we mean no offense, but by and large, politics is ugly, it's dirty, and by association, so are politicians, which makes this a bitter pill to present, but it is being presented out of necessity for all the reasons that Chair has covered. So what started out as a charter that would have been circulated to all political parties to align, because we do find ourselves in the position frequently where people come to us and say, but who do we vote for? And because of our apolitical stance, we've always said, no, we're not going to advocate for any party. But that question comes to us more and more often. So we kind of figured if we had to draft a ratepayers charter agreement that political parties could sign their names to or choose not to, at the very least would be able to present to our communities, hey, these are the guys that support this central idea of serving the ratepayer, and these are the guys who do not. But as Chair said, it has evolved into our manifesto, which I will now present. For service delivery, social justice, and ratepayer empowerment in Ethekiwni, our vision is that the ERPM political wing is founded on the belief that local governance must serve the people, delivering essential services efficiently, upholding social justice, and ensuring that every ratepayer's voice is heard. We're committed to building a municipality where integrity, transparency, and accountability are the cornerstones of public service. Why we enter into the political space, and Chair's covered this. The ERPM political wing is entering the political arena to recalibrate what it means to be a public servant. We believe that the current standards of service and leadership must be raised to meet the real needs of our communities. Our aim is to be the adults in the room, demonstrating maturity, responsibility, and vision. We're committed to setting a new benchmark for impeccable leadership where integrity, accountability, and excellence are not just aspirations, but daily practices. Through our actions and policies, we will demand and deliver a higher standard of service for all. Our core principles: number 1, service delivery excellence. We pledge to prioritize the efficient and equitable delivery of municipal services, water, sanitation, electricity, waste management, and public infrastructure for all communities. Transparent budgeting and resource allocation will be at the heart of our approach, with a special focus on historically underserved areas. Number 2, ratepayer-centered administration. We will ensure that municipal rates and levies are used responsibly and effectively for the collective benefit, and that regular engagement with ratepayers will guide our policies and decisions, fostering a participatory governance. Number 3, social justice and equity. Our policies will advance social justice, equality, and inclusivity across all neighborhoods, and we stand firmly against discrimination, corruption, and nepotism, and will actively oppose these practices. Transparency and accountability. We commit to open communication about municipal affairs, making information accessible and understandable to all, and any breaches in service delivery or integrity will be addressed promptly and reported publicly. Number 5, collaborative governance. We believe in cooperation and constructive dialogue to resolve challenges and achieve shared goals. Political competition will never come before the interests and well-being of our communities. Our commitments. By launching this political wing, ERPM affirms its dedication to consulting regularly with ratepayers and community stakeholders to inform our policies, publishing annual reports on service delivery, administrative performance, and progress towards social justice, supporting independent oversight to monitor governance and ensure compliance with our principles, and participating in public forums and debates to clarify our alignments with the values and priorities of ratepayers. More about alignment with ratepayer values. We stand for integrity, efficiency, equity, transparency, and accountability, and we invite all who share these values to join us in building a better Ethekiwni. Any deviation from these commitments will be met with public scrutiny and corrective action. So our call to action today. The ERPM political wing is open to all who wish to endorse these principles and work collaboratively for administrative excellence and social justice. Together, we will hold ourselves accountable and strive for a municipality that truly serves its people. I pause here to add that this is a working document. I do believe that taking input from everybody on the floor is essential to creating a robust manifesto that serves all the needs that are present in our daily lives. And I think the central idea being that the communities have been neglected for the longest times. I'm not sure how many of you guys have had your councillor call you to a public meeting every 3 months, which is part of what their code of conduct is. You sign your code of conduct and it is expected of you to call an assembly of your community and let them know what's happening. Meanwhile, votes take place in chambers in your name that you have not been consulted on. The infrastructure surcharge levy was tabled in council, and the very party that many of you probably voted for abstained from that vote. And you didn't know it was happening. And that's something that really is a pet peeve of mine, and it's something that we will be pushing as the ERPM to drive focus, communication, and mandate participatory discussion and discourse within our communities so that we can come to you and say, right guys, this is on the agenda. How do you feel about another infrastructure surcharge levy? Yes or no? And then we take your voice back to chambers, because that's how it's supposed to work, not the other way around. Your councillor does not dictate to you, you dictate to them. So with that being said, would you like to open for Q&A? Oh, we first need to take the mandate, sorry. Yeah, so I don't know if you want to do this by a show of hands. Q&A first? I'm happy to take questions before we put this to the vote, Chair. Okay. There's a roaming mic. Can you turn us up?
Hi there. I'm Dave from New Germany Ratepayers Association. So initially we understood the ratepayers, and certainly with the New Germany ratepayers, as a mechanism by which we could then interface with the government / politicians and kind of get them to raise the bar. And we certainly have seen that, where we've seen a lot of use of WhatsApp groups. I think WhatsApp groups have become a big thing in terms of politicians interfacing with their ward. So now if ERPM now is going to become involved in the politicians, who's going to, so my first question, who's going to keep ERPM in line? Where's the mechanism to keep ERPM in line? My first question. My second question is, if ERPM does get involved in politics, it's basically the same question in the end. Accountability. You have actually committed to a lot of stuff here. You do mention accountability, but you don't seem to mention any actual action. So let's say ERPM does take over, bearing in mind you're a politician now, you'll be receiving a salary every month, and the way politics works is a favor here for a favor there. It's the currency of politics. And there'll be times where you guys will be forced to make really difficult choices. As you said, it's ugly, you know, and maybe they won't translate to the public in a very powerful way, and even possibly it might not be right. Maybe you'd have to skip repairing a pump station because something else needs being done. In terms of consequences for non-performance, are you making a pact with the ratepayers to say that if we don't perform, there will be these consequences? Two questions.
Yeah, Dave, interesting points that you raised. And I think you covered it fully, to be honest with you. So, yeah, when this decision was being taken in terms of entering into the space, I've always maintained the apolitical stance. In fact, I still maintain the apolitical stance. And I told the committee that for those of them that we're pushing for this, if this is what you want, then I'm outvoted and we will give you what you want. However, I will remain on the outside, meaning that I won't enter into politics. I'll still remain the chairperson of ERPM because I also want to hold you accountable. So it's a brilliant question that you're asking. But the committee around me are saying, but wait, hold on. If you're not there, who's going to lead us there? So it's a bit of a conundrum. But yeah, Dave, it's an interesting question. So if we enter into politics, who will be there to hold ERPM accountable? And I think the most important thing is that we will hold ourselves accountable. And you also touched upon the dynamics of politics, and MP sitting there at the back, he was, we had a huge debate about this. And I said the fact that when you enter into that space, you're already identifying yourself as being a politician or entering into politics. But what we don't want to do is those trade-offs. And this is, we're making this very, very clear, whether it's 1 seat, 2 seats, 5 seats, 10 seats, whatever. There's no trade-off. We're not gonna, what's the word, help me? We're not gonna compromise our standards for a position. So more often than not, what you would see, and especially in terms of what you see in the government of national unity or in the government of provincial unity, is that partner with us and we will give you the mayorship, or partner with us, we'll give you the minister's position, or partner with us, we'll give you that. We're saying we don't want anything. We are here to fulfill the needs of the ratepayers. We don't want position. So don't come to do that trade-off with us because we're not interested. We're not going to politicize the Ratepayers Association. So basically, that's the position that we will take. In fact, I had a long conversation with the councillor in that regard. And I hear that side of the coin, where we're saying, but you're going to have to partner with one of the bigger parties. And we're saying, no, we don't need to partner with them. Because you failed. In 30 years, you failed. You failed. You failed us. Because if you did what you're supposed to have done, we won't exist. There'll be no need for ratepayers associations. because you'll be delivering. If you were the councillor of that area, you would have been delivering on the mandate for your area. But what you've been telling us for 30 years is, no, I can't do it because I've been outvoted. And that's not how it works in council. Let me tell you that much. There is no voting on basic needs. There is voting on capital needs. So if there's a capital project that needs to be done, yes, then there'll be a vote. But there's no voting for for waste management in your area. Yes, as a councillor, you must go and demand, show me the budget for my area. And if it's not budgeted, when will it be budgeted? So, and I keep using this example. We had an individual in Ethekiwni who was part of the DA. He's now the mayor, Chris Papas. Chris Papas served as a councillor under the DA in ward, what ward was that? Ward 31. And Ward 31 was the best run ward in Ethekiwni. He was a DA councillor, but he knew how to use the system. It was the best ward under his leadership. Today he is the mayor of Howick and etc. And you can see that if you have the right leader, then things happen. Because I mean, we can see how he's done a major turnaround in that area. And it's about leadership. It's not about being outvoted. If you have that desire to serve your community, you'll do what it takes to serve your community. I hope that answers your question, Dave.
Sorry, I'll bring you the mic now, but if I can just add, I think we need to be very clear about this. The ERPM is, our intention is to contest locally only. We're not casting the net to province, we're not casting the net to national. We're going to keep it very simple, and this is service delivery, intentional movement. Right here, we have a hand.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you, Azar, for the invite. I'm not from New Germany. I'm from Glenwood. I used to own land in Westville before by Shepson Place. Why I came, I met you last week. I admire your work, I admire your stand, I admire exactly what you're doing. My question is, in the Ethekiwni, we have about maybe 4 or 5 million people living. Would ratepayers, they carrying the can for services for an entire 100%? Out of Ethekiwni, we may have about 25 or 30% ratepayers that are paying 100% of services. You have these shelters, these jondolos, these squatter camps that absorb a lot of services. They are the non-payers, non-paying ratepayers. I may own a property of 100 properties, so I may own, being a 100 ratepayer, where a quantity may be about, let's say, 100,000, for example. But when it comes to voting rights, and somebody needs to vote, you may not get the support of those people that are getting free services. How do you equate to that? Because you say it's a numbers game. So although I support you 100%, I'll give all the mandate, go to political power, but the problem is, how do you encounter that sort of people that are not paying for services, that still demand rights, and you as Ethekiwni ratepayer that are paying to your nose for service delivery, that do not get the same rights, but there's no equilibrium. So how do you counter that? Where you have 30% that are paying for 70% who are not paying.
Thank you.
Look, that is an interesting question, and you know, many political parties are faced with the same conundrum. So I mean, we had ACC facing similar. We've got the DA that does work as well in those communities. But for us as ERPM, and for good reason, and it wasn't something that we planned to do. But when we stood up as the Ratepayers Association, we didn't just stand up for ratepayers. We stood up for every single person in the city, because we do believe that every person has a right to human dignity, whether you pay or whether you don't pay. In fact, the 6 kiloliter action that we took to court and we won was for the indigent people in the city. So the right to exist, or the right for services, is there. We've done a lot of work in that community. So, and we continue to do a lot of work in those communities as well, because what we're saying is they shouldn't even be staying in those jondolos. In fact, the city doesn't even have a clear policy when it comes to the influx of people. And that model doesn't work. And if we don't get into council and change that, we're sitting with, I think, I don't know, about 200 or almost 300 informal settlements. And if we don't address that, you'll end up maybe with up to 500, 600, or even 1,000 informal settlements in Ethekiwni. And you can imagine the strain it puts on the infrastructure, the strain that it puts on water, the strain, I mean, if there's illegal electricity connections in those informal settlements, which you and I are paying for, by the way. So it puts a strain on all of these things. We were shocked to hear that the city, in the last local government election, went and put up RDP houses. We're not talking Jondolos now. We're talking RDP, so brick and mortar. RDP houses around Ethekiwni to get the votes. But those properties and those houses, sewer lines were not connected to the city sewer line. Now, imagine you have a house and you're a human, you eat and you need to excrete. Where do you excrete? Where? The city hasn't given you that infrastructure. You're not going to go in, sorry for using the word, you're not going to shit in your own house. You're not going to go and shit in the neighbor's house. So where are you going to go? But this is what the city did. They put RDP houses and not connected to the sewer line for votes. And what we are saying as ERPM, all of those things need to stop. They need to stop. Informal settlements needs to be addressed. The housing issue needs to be addressed. In fact, someone had a discussion with me. In those informal settlements, remember there's non-revenue water there. They don't pay for water, right? So there's a water connection and there's a standpipe. But at that standpipe, there's a taxi rank, or in the taxi rank, there's non-revenue water also. And how many taxis are getting washed every single day? And who's paying for it? Not the taxi owner pays the guy who washes the taxi, but that money doesn't reach the city. It's non-revenue water. You and I are paying for it. And we need to address those issues. And the problem that we have is we can't address those issues from the outside. You can only address those issues from the inside.
So
that's
for the benefit of the live stream. The question was about UIPs and why they even exist. Take a chair.
I thought you were going to answer that one, but it's fine. She's more than capable of answering that question. So we've been challenged as an organization. Why don't you become a UIP? And our position is simple. Why must we pay twice for what we're paying for? So it didn't make economic sense for us. Yes, what can be addressed with the UIP is flowers. They can make nice flowers. They can clean the verges. You can provide security. You can put cameras. But that's about it. But you pay to have your streets cleaned. I mean, for those of you who've been in Westville for, I don't know, Yongs, you had a person that came past your house that was sweeping the street. You don't see that anymore. You had a person who came and cleaned the overgrow on your verge that was going onto the street. You don't see that anymore. But you're still being charged for it. You're still being charged for bin bags. In fact, Rose was having a meltdown in that regard. Why should our bin bags be manufactured in Joburg? It should be manufactured by someone in Durban. So we manufacture the bin bags that are being used in Ethekiwni in Joburg. We pay a transporter to bring it here, and we're paying for it, right? Because they do nothing. And then the remainder comes to the UIP, and then those who are administering the UIP pay themselves a salary, so they get paid first. Then they go and do what you need to do. Does it make sense? Doesn't make sense.
And I think
In fact, UIPs don't like me because of what I hold this position. I mean, there's a UIP in Westville. I mean, they took me to task, and I don't mind. I don't mind because it doesn't make sense. Why must we pay twice for what we deserve? We shouldn't be. We shouldn't be paying twice. Sorry, Rose.
No, and I think the important thing to remember there is that you're paying twice for the same administration. So it's not like UIPs use private contractors. It's not private truck drivers that come and fetch your dirt. It's not like private, they use city resources. It's DSW that operates at a premium for UIP because you're reprioritizing services to an area that pays twice for what everybody actually pays for, which as a ratepayers association is a little bit insulting, right? And I also just wanted to backpedal one little bit to why I think we would be effective inside the administration. The budget speaks to a bunch of, I mean, we don't support the narrative of us and them versus ratepayers versus non-payers, right? We accept 100% that there's cross-subsidy that's made provision for in the budget, and we're wholehearted about that. We've got no problem with cross-subsidizing areas that require services. But then spend our money where you say you're going to be spending it. Don't tell us you're going to be giving Richmond Farm water in 3 consecutive budgets only to go there and find that no tap exists, because we're paying for that. They're telling the ratepayer, these are your tariffs because we have to cross-subsidize and put these services over here, and they're not being used to their purpose. So I think that's kind of where our focus would be. It's like, well, it's in the budget. Can we do oversight in this area to make sure that it's being installed? And we're not getting a president in the middle of a water crisis coming all the way to Ethekiwni to unveil a single garden tap. Sorry.
Supposed to have applauded her for that. But to that point, I mean, we can do 2 things, one of 2 things. We can choose to address the elephant in the room, or we could choose to be the ostrich and bury our heads in the sand. And the problem with being ostriches in Ethekiwni, and especially when it comes to the informal settlements, is ultimately it will affect you. So drive past any informal settlement and see the amount of waste collected outside of there. Is that at some point not going to become a health hazard, not just for that community, but for every single person staying in the city? So if you don't address that elephant in the room, ultimately it's going to affect you. If you don't provide them with proper water and sanitation, they will get diseased, they'll get sick, and ultimately it's going to affect you. So we need to think bigger. And again, we're saying, you know, we've had this discussion with many times. The issue that we have as Ratepayers Association, even if you want to increase our tariffs, increase it if it's justified. We got no issue. But if you're increasing our tariffs in order to line your pockets, we have a problem. And that's the issue that we're fighting. So if you came to us and you said, you know what, this budget, what's it now, 69 million, 70 odd million, what's it now, Norman? 69 billion rand budget. If you come back to us and you say, you know what, this budget, 69 billion rand, is not effective to run the city, so we need a little bit more. No one sitting in this room is going to have a problem with it. But when you're telling us, come and increase this budget so that I can drive a Mercedes and I can have this and I can have that, we have a problem with that. When you want to have a music festival, we have a problem with that. When you're spending millions and millions on security for yourself, I don't understand why. Most of the councillors have security. Then you have a security following a water tanker. Then you have a security following electricity. So yes, we can understand if you're going into those areas where security is needed. Who's going to hijack a municipal vehicle in Westville or in New Germany? Who? Nobody, but we pay for that. Now, that's where someone's benefiting out of a security contract. The only reason it's there is because someone's benefiting from the contract. And what we're saying is we can't fix this from the outside. We can't. The only time we can fix it is if we're there. And what we're saying also, and we're saying this loud and very, very loud, because the stuff we say here is what we're going to hold ourselves accountable to. So we're not afraid that if we had to sit in council to say these things. We're not afraid of saying it. And I think maybe that's the reason why they said, no, 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 you need to be there, because maybe they're scared to say it. And they know I won't be scared to say it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Protocols observed. Councillors, my colleagues. My name is Mohammed Ismail. Maybe I should stand here if everybody can see me, because most of the people are on this side here. Your chairperson has said a lot of things, a lot of important things when it comes to the running of the community or the wards, as it were. A councillor's mandate, I'm a PR councillor, not a ward councillor, but I'm still accountable because I work with ratepayers, I work with residents in my community. I have a long history of activism coming from Johannesburg. I also sit on community police forums and district and a few other things. Now, what we see is shocking. We shouldn't really be having meetings like this where the ratepayers associations now decide that they want to enter into politics and become a political party and make a difference from the inside. And it's true, it's true. Change will come from the inside. However, the basic operating system is for the councillors like myself and my colleague Norman and whoever else is here to work closely with the ratepayers associations. And I'll tell you a little secret. The previous mayor, Kaunda, when he was here, he didn't want ratepayers associations. But the ACC, and I'm going to take a little bit of credit for this here, we spoke to him and discussed with him the importance of ratepayers associations and the weight that they hold in the community. So then he had workshops and a whole lot of things happen. I think I said, were you at that workshop earlier, a few years ago? And that's what happened. So basically, what has to happen now, from now, is that you need to engage every single ward councillor and PR councillor, because the PR councillor sort of backs the ward councillor and that work gets done. And have those meetings and tell them these are the issues that's happening and we want accountability. Because what happens is that every ward councillor has a budget every year to develop the ward. But the consultative process might be questionable, might not be questionable. And there are councillors who know what needs to be done, and there are councillors who also know, but they just do blindly, and the money goes elsewhere. Then I want to talk, I'll give you a simple example. When your chairperson spoke about leadership. Leadership is the core of running your ward, running your community from whichever level. I was going through my file the other day, and I found correspondence that I sent to the city manager in 2023. He has not responded. Now that's leadership for you. And it was an important, a very, very important aspect that I dealt with. And the city manager, councillor, he didn't respond. Can you believe that? Up until today. And I spoke to him at council meetings and said, please, you need to do this, you need to do that. So the work starts at ground level and it moves up. So if you do get elected, if you do decide to start your political party, whatever it is, it's also very different on the inside when you activists coming from the outside going onto the inside, because now protocols change. You have municipal acts, you have a whole lot of things, you have issues that come to vote. That, for example, I have an issue when the agenda comes to the table and it says we need 5 million rand budget for a music festival. I cannot support that, because if you give me 1 million rand, from there I can go to Asad and say, Asad, I've got 1 million rand, what can we do to fix your community? And that's how it should work. And it's about wasteful expenditure. And every single month at council, we have a report that comes through, and my council colleagues are here. They will back me up. Wasteful expenditure is there, and it runs into the millions. And people who are responsible in those departments must be held accountable, but then it just goes through the cracks. Everything slips through the cracks. So hopefully, in the next local government elections, we have people in leadership who are going to make a difference, because we have to look at the core of leadership coming all the way down at grassroots level. It's all about grassroots level, grassroots level at the end of the day. So be informed in how you want to take this forward and what you want to do and how you want to do it. But I must tell my friend Asad again that he's already doing politics. He's a politician. Ratepayers associations is politics. You can't separate. It's a very blurry line. It's politics. So you are already involved in politics. You know what you want to do. You know where you're going forward. So I wish you guys well, and thank you for the good work you guys are doing. And hold us accountable. We as the councillors, hold us accountable. We are answerable to you because we earn your ratepayers' money. Thank you. Question for me?
Hi, I'm Peter in Winklespruit. We have met before. Okay, I was just very interested. I couldn't understand whether you've submitted your manifesto to the political parties. Have you done that? Oh, so that's not your intention anymore,
No.
for the reasons that you were sort of hinting to. Okay.
The idea was
I'm
that
sorry about that. I'm sorry that it didn't work. Yeah, I think that would be a better solution in some ways. You know, you spoke in the beginning about the advantages of it, that you'd say to people, these are the political parties, whoever the hell they are, that support this manifesto, and these are the guys who don't. You know, that sounded
yeah. Peter, so basically you've just put the motion forward, whether you know or you don't.
Stand beside chair, sorry, the glare is...
Okay, so I know there's a problem with the mic. So Peter basically brought up, he raised the question to say, in terms of this manifesto, we did speak earlier about presenting it to political parties, and Peter is asking, had we done this? And we said no, because of the reasons we said why we didn't do it. However, Peter is also saying, is in hindsight, is that why don't you do it? Because it would be interesting to know which political parties will subscribe to what we are asking. So in essence, what he's done is he's put a motion, whether he knows it or not. And who supports that motion? You can raise your hand. So it's a unanimous motion. To be honest with you, to be honest with you, in one of our exec or exco meetings, that decision still stands. It's in our minutes to say that we would circulate this, but there were parallel discussions taking place that circulated and put a mandate or request for a mandate to enter into the political space. Nothing stops us. Because, I mean, you're talking about elections that's going to take place in November next year, so there's still lots of time. So we can still circulate this, and it would be interesting to see, because I also would like to know, what is a particular political party's position on this? If you accept this, you save us a lot of work, because then we don't need to enter into the space. But if you don't support this, then we're coming for you. So that's basically the position that we want to hold.
Dave, I see your hand, but I'd like to come in here. And I echo that sentiment. I think we should still circulate this. And I know that Norman's hand came up before yours, so I'm going to give you the mic now in a second, Norman. I'd like to put out a live challenge to all political parties who have, on the record and for the record, most of them been quite hostile towards the ERPM since our inception. We are met, and like you say, we're in politics already, I guess, but when we address our councillors, they treat us as though it's none of your business, get out of my way, I will take care of this, and I don't need to answer to you. And for us, this is why we're stepping into this ring, and maybe why we have not yet circulated the manifesto, because the leadership crisis exists, the leadership vacuum exists, and I do believe that in our juvenile democracy, our parties and the leadership inside them are still very juvenile. I think this is why our core issue here is to rise to the occasion of being the adult in the room, because instead of seeing your most active citizens on the ground as a hostile threat, embrace those people and say, wow, you have stepped up, thank you so much, there is so much work to do, let's work together. And we haven't had a single political party embrace us as activists. So if they want to fight with us as activists, they may as well fight with us as politicians, you know? Thanks. And yeah, they can.
So yeah, it's an interesting. So we didn't want to get into the detail, but for all of the execs that sit on ERPM, they'll tell you this. So whether you sit on the south, whether you sit in the up the hill, whether you sit in Westville, the moment, and especially now with us with ERPM, and really we don't do this to outshine a councillor. We're not. That's not our core function. We do it because it needs to happen. And we do it because we know who to talk to. And we do it because we know how to exert that pressure. So we exert the pressure and get it done. What we don't do is broadcast. But they get aware of it. I mean, I'll give you a simple, stupid example. Westville was not familiar with water tankers. It's not a thing for Westville people to accept water from a water tanker. It was never such a thing. But Westville went through a water crisis for a long period of time. And there were calls that were made to me to say, can you organize a water tanker? And for sure, I mean, if you need a water tanker, we'll get you a water tanker. And we organized the water tanker. Not once, not twice, several times. And then the councillors came back and they said, no. Hey, no. Oh, why are you giving the tanker to the Ratepayers Association? It must come through me. And they took this decision in council to say water tankers must only go through a councillor. So we went, 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting with the water department, and we put this back on the table. And we said, show me, in law or in policy where it says that only a councillor can request a tanker. Show it to me. And they don't have that. So then they said, no, wait, hold on. In some areas where there are long-term outages, meaning there's no pipe water, the infrastructure is totally damaged, destroyed, whatever, then yes, let the councillor request for the tanker. But in an area like New Germany or Toti or wherever, there's a need for water, then surely the Ratepayers Association can request for it. What's the issue? Because the issue is water. The issue is not who requested for the water tanker, but they can't see that. And I'll give you another example. When DSW went on strike, and you'll all know DSW went on strike, and everybody was like, what do we do? Even the councillors couldn't do anything. We, the Ratepayers Association for Westville, New Germany, Pinetown, we ensured that waste was collected and disposed of. These people around you sitting here. We did that. And we were able to work in conjunction with DSW. We had to provide the security for the vehicles. We use private vehicles, whatever the case may be. But that was the councillor's job. That wasn't our job. But when we did this, the councillors were not happy. They were very upset. And we saying, wait, hold on, we're not competing with you. We are here to supplement what you're doing. In fact, we're helping you to do your job. All you needed to do was just partner with us. And if you partner with us, we'll partner with you. In fact, Norman had the discussion with me because he comes from a ratepayer background. He was an activist like ourselves. He's now got elected into a councillor, And Norman and I go back a long time. I know Norman for years now. And Norman's a good guy. He's one of the better guys. And we had a similar discussion to say, I want to be part of you. And how can I help you? And me being on the inside, I am in a better position to be able to help you that's sitting on the outside. Now, if all councillors behaved like this, then there's no need for us to be in the ring. We'll sit back, we'll be spectators, we'll be cheerleaders. We don't have a problem. Norman?
Thank you, Assad. I'd like to make a comment, if you would allow me. But before I do that, I think what's important to ask before we go into this, what does political success look like for you at the 2026 LGE? And have you thought about, and what would you do to make sure that your entry into politics benefits and doesn't weaken the political structure?
Look, ultimately, and it depends on the success of ERPM. And those who work with me will know you either go big or you go home. So we're not aiming for 2 seats, really, to be honest with you. I know it may be a bold statement. So we actually in my dream, we can get at least about 10 or 12 seats if we do this correctly. So ultimately, it will weaken certain political parties or structures, whatever you want to call it. But the idea is not there to go and weaken another party over ourselves. It's to strengthen and get the city working. That is our purpose. We're doing this for no other reason. Yeah, someone mentioned, Dave mentioned, you'll get a salary. So, okay, fine, we'll become the councillors, we'll take the salary, we'll give it back to you. Because we're not doing it for the salary, guys. None of us are. So it's not like we're getting into the space because we want to earn a salary. No. It's one of the perks of being a councillor. But it's not the reason why we want to be there. So that doesn't attract us. What we want is to fix the city. In fact, we spend more of our time now for free. More time than a councillor even spends. For free. So we're not motivated by a salary. That doesn't motivate us. What we said was that there's a vacuum or there's a deficiency in leadership. In fact, a recent study, Norman would know, one of his colleagues actually has been circulating it on social media as well. 80% of the councillors can't read and write. They can't read and write. Now you bringing a document to them to read, understand, and to give an opinion and to vote on it, but they can't read and write. And these are the leaders that we've elected. We've elected these people. And this is what we need to change. Norman, I hope it answers your question.
One other thing I should mention when you talk about your successes, that Susan helped me with a 2-year outstanding argument or more with the council, a water bill that eventually reached $1 million, and she sorted it out in about a week from ERPM.
Don't talk too loud. The councillors won't get happy because once we started to do this as well, and Susan, stand up. Let everyone know who the good person is. So we've been doing this work, and we've been doing it for a long time, and we don't broadcast. But we had a political party go out in Phoenix and go and do this and say, come to us, we'll fix your bill. And they were doing it as a political grandstand. That's not us. Correct. That was another party. Another party came to our offices and we helped them. We have got no issue because as long as the individual gets helped. We had activists who worked with us, who went and formed a private company now to help resolve this. So in other words, we saying as ERPM, and you open to accept, deny, or whatever dispute. The only thing it cost you was a membership fee, which was 120 Rand, effectively 10 Rand a month. That's all it took. And that 120 Rand, I can tell you now, 99.9% of that went to legal fees. None of that came to us. So other activists in the space went and formed companies to say, you have a problem with your bill, come to us, we'll charge you a 10% fixing fee. So if your bill was R1 million, you effectively would have to pay them 10 grand. So people are making money off that. I know of a person in Chatsworth that does this. He's got an office, he pays rent, just helping poor illiterate Indians, by the way.
10% of $1 million is 100,000.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Chinese mats. The other 90 grand I'll put in my pocket. Sorry, but thanks for the correction. I mean 10%. And that those million rand bills, yours is one. I think we must have done more than 10. More than 10. More than 10 of those over million rand bills that we've assisted. So imagine if we were charging even 1%, 10 grand, I'd be say, hey, thank you very much. But we're not even charging these people. We simply do it to help people. I mean, who has a million rand these days? Not any one of us here. Norman, yeah.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Hello, everybody. So, my name's Norman Gilbert. I was the chairman of the Bluff Ratepayers and Residents Association up until the 21st of September when I was elected to be a ward councillor for the Democratic Alliance. Asad and I and Rose, we've had lots of meetings about the issues that frustrate ratepayers in the city. And I shared an antidote with Asad just now, and I said the interesting thing is, when I was the chairman of the Ratepayers Association and I would attend meetings and I would engage with people, I then became a councillor. And one of the first messages I got on a platform of Ratepayers Association groups, a mother body, was to congratulate me for winning my election. And then I received a private message from the chairman saying, I need to remove you from the group now. So I said, why? I'm the same person with the same ideals, the same motivation. I just have a bigger platform and a louder microphone. So the issue that we have between ratepayers and politicians or councillors is there's been a complete breakdown in trust. Councillors don't trust civic bodies because the concern is you're trying to undermine me, you're trying to show me up, and that's not acceptable. The reverse, of course, is that the civics don't trust the politicians because politicians lie, don't we? So this is where we're at. This is where the rubber meets the tar, is we've got to restore trust between the municipality and the community. So when we talk about the municipality and its failures, we need to understand that we have a council that is made up and run by political parties. And the reason why I asked Asad the question is, what does success look like for you? Because the reality is, unless we take over the management of the city, we won't change the city. And you're not going to take over the management of the city with just 10 seats. You need to win. I'm going to get caught out with the maths. If you don't have 111 seats, 112 seats in your voting block, you don't control the city. So that is something that voters, residents need to understand going into the next local government election. We love people like Asad and Rose, competent people. So my challenge would be to you guys, please circulate your manifesto, because I can't see how any political party would not subscribe to what you've got in there, because it's everything we want from a governing party. But what I'd also like to suggest to you is, if you really want to get into the fight, which is what I did. I was a chairman of a Ratepayers Association, and I realized I can't effect real change just by highlighting a problem, bringing ENCA onto the bluff to show them the sewer spills. It doesn't change anything. I was presented with an opportunity to get into the political arena, and that's where I am now. So now I sit in the very committees where decisions are made around running the city. But it's very frustrating, because when you sit in a committee council meeting and something gets tabled, you know it's going to go to vote if you don't agree with it. If everybody agrees, there's no vote. But if you disagree, there has to be a vote. And the vote is a farce, because the people sitting on that side of the hall carry the majority. So it doesn't matter. We can say no, it'll pass. I'll give you a little example, and these are the things that I want you to consider when you're going to consider how you vote next year. A motion was tabled by the city. They needed an additional, my maths stands to correction, but about 78 million rand. The reason for wanting the money is they wanted to start the project of phase 2 of the RDP housing in Cornubia. The reason they need the money is because the partner, Tongaat Hewlett's, is under administration, so they can't give the money anymore. So they've asked the city to make the budget available. The caveat was they will include all the displaced families from the 2022 floods. How would you vote? You've got 600 displaced people who don't have homes anymore. You can give 78 million rand to start a project that will build homes that they can move into. Just before we vote, a motion gets tabled to amend the budget. The amendment is to remove the sentence that says it'll accommodate the victims of the 2022 floods. But that's why you wanted the money in the first place. Now you want the money, but you're not going to benefit those people. So obviously you vote no. But the vote passes. So when you're thinking about who should you vote for, this next election is critical for the city. Let's not kid each other. Unless we wrestle control of the city away from what used to be the ANC and is now going to be the MK party, nothing is going to change in the city. And if we dilute the opposition vote, which prevents a majority in council, we're going to lose. So think very carefully. My challenge to people like Assad and to Rose and anybody else out there that's listening, if you feel you can have a benefit, align with a political party that's already in the game, that has the structures, that has the numbers to be able to take this fight to council. Rather, put your candidacy forward for a party that's already there. Have a look, chat to the DA. Tell them, I want to stand, I want to be a candidate to run as a ward councillor in my ward. Go through the process, and if you get elected, then you at least have the backing of a party that's big enough in council to make a difference.
For me or for Norman?
Can I just quickly respond? Just very, very quickly. And Norman, I appreciate where you're coming from. I do recognize and understand that there is a very real risk to diluting the mechanisms in chambers, and I appreciate that. The problem I have with it is that for 30 years we've been coaxed into voting for parties who are vocal about everything that we want, and when it comes down to it, there's a pledge of allegiance to party before people. And I struggle with that, with all the established parties. Once you become a councillor for these established parties, you are then towing a party line and your community becomes secondary. And I really think that in the local space, that is something that really does need to change. And I think that, to go back to your question about what does political success look like, for me, it's a pressure group that we are, and we're very successful at that from the outside, coming in to the inside and raising the bar and setting the standard and putting out a challenge to everybody that sits in those seats to lead by example and be impeccable with their word and display an exemplary measure of service to those who they ask to vote for them.
Hello. I think historically, I mean, I was quite involved with you about 2 years ago, and the Ethekiwni rates protest movement rolled out the carpet to politicians and said, work with us. And this all came across very well, as long as there's grandstanding, and I remember Herman Mashaba as one. And that was great. And then, and I don't mean to insult the DA in any way, there was a decision made on a national basis, and the doors were closed. I'm not saying you yourself, but this was the experience that I experienced. And it was at that point where what is happening today became inevitable. I think that at this point in time, one doesn't even need to circulate the manifesto because a historic decision is being made here. This is a political party that has made a pact with the people that it's representing. It's not just going to, and that was my question earlier on about accountability. It's not just hot air. They made a pact with us, you know, and that's something that the DA can't say because there's a local DA and there's a national DA. And when decisions happen in the national DA, the local guys have to obey it. And it doesn't really matter how much you guys, as councillors, want to do the right thing, you have to toe the party line, as you say. So I think that this is a new breath of fresh air. If the DA can come along and beat that and make a pact with us, then that would be a different thing entirely.
Thank you. So, thanks, Dave. So, Norman, I think I think for your earlier comment, the DA is going to promote you. They're going to be very happy with what. No, they're going to promote you for promoting the DA. But guys, so you know, Mr. Ismail said whether you like it or not, you're already a politician. And I was telling this to Rose, and her response to Dave was a very political response. She didn't realize, but it was political. But I'm not scared to talk politics, and I've never been scared to talk politics. And Norman is a good friend of mine. I respect him a lot. But for all persons who vote DA in the future, you're voting for the ANC, like it or not, because they're in a partnership agreement with the ANC. When you voted the DA, they didn't come to you for a mandate to say, can I get into a government of national unity? They didn't get your mandate to do that. But they did it on their own because guess what? I'll get a minister's position, I'll get a provincial MEC position, and you are compromising your values and your standards for a position, which is what we are against. We're saying, hold on, don't come and throw these things at us. We will remain who we are because we want to hold you accountable. The moment you take that, it's like, if I come and give someone a bribe or whatever, sweets, you give a child a sweet, the child will love you forever. They'll remember that occasion, and that's what happens in politics. It's a give and take, quid pro quo. I give, you give, and that's how it works. And what we don't see, and this is what Dave was talking about, what you don't see is the discussions behind the scenes, where the leadership are taking those decisions, whether it's at a provincial level or whether it's at a national level. And we're saying we don't want to get involved in that. This thing of quid pro quo amongst party politics is the reason why we are where we are. And again, Mr. Ismail is sitting here in this room, and he's also a good friend of mine. It's because of him that we still have an ANC government in Ethekiwni, his party. They went and supported the ANC. Had they not supported the ANC in the last local government election, we wouldn't have had an ANC government. All the small parties went and partnered with the ANC. And as a result, the ANC got a majority. And because they got the majority for 4 years, capital left us. So this is where we're saying as a small party, and nobody's saying, no, if you got 10 seats, you're not going to make. It's 10 out of 115. There's 115 seats in Ethekiwni Council, or 116, I'm not too sure. So 223 seats in Ethekiwni. So think what your 10% as an opposition in that there, you will definitely be in a what they call it? Not a coalition, but you will hold the trump cards. Let's put it to you, because you'll have one party sitting this side without a majority, another party sitting without a majority, and you'll be sitting in the middle. You make the decision. But whatever decision is being taken or made must be made in the interest of the ratepayers. That's what we're saying, Puvi. I'm not convinced. Okay.
It will make it stronger when you go for votes.
Yes.
Unless you get them all lying, them all saying yes, yes, and in reality they don't do anything. But the sooner you get that out, and if they then break their support of your manifesto, you could then publish that.
So as Dave mentioned, we did this 4 years ago.
But then you've done it.
And as Dave said, it was shut down from a higher level. So whilst you may have the likes of a Norman as a councillor, who's...
You're okay, then you should set up your own party, then you try. How many times?
Yeah, so again, what I'm saying is we did this, right? But where we were then versus where we are now is not the same position. Then they looked at us like, you're just rebel rousers. Now we're in a different position. But what the EXCO wanted to do was to invite them to a public forum. So everyone, come to have a talk with us. And if you subscribe to the sign, let your constituents see for themselves. Because if your constituents agree to this, they abide by it, they like it, they're telling you effectively, if I give you my vote, this is what I want you to do. But if you don't subscribe to this, then I'm not going to give you my vote. That's basically the position.
Will the position be that the ratepayers will give you a vote, but the voters won't?
Well, a ratepayer is a voter. Effectively, you are a voter. Are all voters ratepayers? No. So you have non-ratepayer voters, those who don't effectively have an account with the city. But in terms of our constitution, they have a right to vote.
Non-ratepayers may be the kind of people, with all respect, who may say we prefer a party to sewage lines in Westport.
I can tell you without a doubt, we've met with this community, right? So go down to, what's this place, Bonella, Mayville. There's raw sewer flowing every single day. If you drive that, I don't know what's that road called. And you ask that community, do you like this? And they tell you straight, no. And they tell you, we got no other choice. We got no choice. We've been speaking to the councillor, we've been doing whatever, burning tires, etc., etc. No one wants that. So Rose spoke about, what's that place called? Richmond Farm. We had that community reach out to us to say that we haven't had piped water for I don't know how many years. We don't have piped water in this community. And we took up that fight with the then Mayor Kaunda. And as a result, there was work being done in terms of an aqueduct, southern aqueduct, which needed to get commissioned. And it did get commissioned. And when it got commissioned, Durban North suffered. They didn't get water. So we pressured to get water to Richmond Farm, and as a result, somebody else got affected. But that wasn't our fault. The air release valves that in Durban North failed, and as a result, it airlocked the system. And it was such a commotion because we had political parties in this momentum trying to resolve this, and are we here, and yeah, we this, and yeah, we that. And we, in the background, were having the separate discussion with the officials, and we said, come on, man, it's an airlock. I'm not a water engineer, but it's an airlock. And then only they admitted to us to say that, you know what, we don't have the maps, the GIS maps for these aqueducts. So we literally have to walk the line. We see, oh, okay, yeah, there's the air pressure release valve. Yeah, it functions. No, it don't function. Oh, this one's not working. Let's fix it. So it took them almost a week and a half to sort that out. And they're saying that, you know, all these maps, and again, they're blaming it on apartheid. It's always a story. That when that manager was sitting in that office, when he left, he took the maps and he went. So now the new guy that came doesn't have the maps. But 30 years later, you didn't even decide that you're going to make your own maps. We met with an official we met with an official and he told us, I'm the only person in this department that knows how to run this department. He works for the municipality. And he's proud to say it. I'm the only person. And he says, God help you people in 4 years when I retire. The city is going to die. Now these are the people that we have there. That they're saying, I hold this thing very close to me. And I'm the only one who knows. Now, that's not how you run a city. You don't run a city like that. You shouldn't even be proud to say that there is no succession in your department. And the sad part, when we sat with the executive director, there were more than 20 officials, senior managers, in an acting position. So basically they went to, I don't know, some television producing company and brought in actors. Because that's what they are, actors. They're acting managers. They're not managers. So you got actors running the city. You know what I'm saying? So it is like a, what you call it, bold and beautiful. Let's take the vote. Let's take the vote. Should ERPM, okay, firstly, we will still circulate this, right? It's accepted. That vote was taken. And we will give feedback in terms of which parties subscribe to this. Yes, sir. Okay. So we will do that. In fact, last year we also said, we did, Dave. We published the results of that to say, these are the parties that subscribed and these are the parties that didn't. Am I correct? Okay, but we did do that survey, right, MP? Yeah. So we're happy to do this again and say, these parties subscribed, these parties didn't subscribe, these people responded, these people said, stuff you. We'll make that public. Can we take the mandate? Oh, no.
Yeah, just as a point of understanding in terms of ERPM and how it's structured or organized, whether it falls under an NPO, PBO, whatever, how that is done, because obviously if that is the case and if it is going to go to a point of essentially establishing as a political party, then it would have to cease operating under that auspice and register with the IEC as a political organization. So just to understand how that's actually going to work.
Yeah, so we are an NPO? NPC. MP? Vic? Huh?
Yes.
We are NPC. But to the gentleman's point, you'd have to run it separately. So ERPM as ERPM NPC will still remain, and ERPM politics will be separate for two separate entities. And in fact, there were discussions in terms of governance, because you can't be referee and player, let's be honest, right? So let's say I stay on the outside, then I can still hold ERPM accountable, whoever those people are. If I step on the inside, then there needs to be a team of people on the outside that can hold me accountable. But what we also have, and which is interesting, is that in terms of the governance, we have the EXCO, and then we have what we call a director level. So at a director level, there's some individuals who sit there, the finance guys, et cetera, who are saying, we will sit on the outside. We won't enter in the political space, but we will hold you accountable. Which kind of maybe answers your question, Dave. And again, what we're also saying is, and there are many individuals who are sitting here, professional individuals, lawyers, accountants, et cetera. Perhaps maybe you would want to come and sit on ERPM, NPC, and be the governance of ERPM politics. Meaning, I want to sit here, so someone like you, yourself, and you can say, I want to sit here so that I can still hold you accountable. Because what we don't want is that we come with this and we become something else, then there's no point. There has to be that accountability.
Yeah, just to add to that, so the current runnings of our EXCO, the ERPM, our activists on the ground is never going to change. We've got amazing volunteers from the upper highway to Tongaat, all the way down the south coast. We haven't quite reached Umkamas yet, but we're getting there. And those volunteers serve their communities like intimately. They know what the issues on the ground there are. And for me, there will never be a day where those communities don't feed into the EXCO. So what the political arm would look like, very separate, would be our activists feeding back to the politics wing so that we can carry those voices into chambers and vice versa. So our communication levels are only going to increase, but they still remain very focused on the local community aspect of things, if that makes sense. But the ERPM, the pressure group, the accountability forum will never cease to exist. Whether we go ahead with the political structure or not, the political structure will be outside of that, but accountable to the EXCO as it exists right now. Let's do it. Should we? Okay.
On the count of 3.
All those in favor of launching a political arm division of the ERPM, say aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Nay? 1, 2, 3,
You can't vote twice.
4. Okay, so the majority of this House is in agreement. That said, we will still circulate this in a charter format. So it'll be a charter of agreement to political parties, and if we get buy-in, this discussion is not closed. It has just begun, I think.
Yeah, and look, it's not a democracy, so it doesn't mean that if the majority are saying do it, we must do it. We're still open to those who are saying, we don't want you to do it. We would like to hear your reasons. And perhaps maybe there's something that we may be overlooking. So for those of you who are saying, no, we don't want you to enter into the space, perhaps tell us why. Tell us why you think we shouldn't. And maybe there's merit in that. You know, it's not something that we're rushing into, that we want to do this, because again, like I said, the work is a lot. You know, it's a lot as it is. It'll be a lot worse when you become a councillor. So tell us why you feel that we shouldn't enter into that space, and we're happy to hear that. Any one of the 4? It's what? Okay.
And I can guarantee there's going to be a lot of communities that don't know about you and not going to. I don't think you're getting anything in New Germany here. You've got, we know who's here. So are you really going to get any seats? Are they going to get a representative in this area or somewhere else? That is the worry and concern.
Okay. Yeah, look, I mean, the splitting the vote narrative goes long, and it goes quite far. But again, you shouldn't be voting. So the thing here is, most people, I won't vote for the ANC. I will vote for so and so because I don't want to vote for the ANC. And the problem we have is it becomes a default vote, right? So I'm voting for the party because of what it stands, meaning I'm not happy with the ANC, so therefore I won't vote for this one, I won't vote for that one. I'll vote for this party because guess what? I resonate to this party. The problem with voting with along those lines is that you end up, because again, we had a one-on-one discussion. Vic, I think you were in that meeting. We had this meeting with John Steenhuisen in a very upmarket, la-di-da, fancy place in Umhlanga. And it was myself, it was Vic, it was Enzo, I can't remember who else. I think you were there also, Dave. But I can't remember who else, but I know Enzo was there and I know Vic was there. And we had this discussion with John Steenhuisen. And we highlighted certain councillors. And we said, John, you have a problem. You have a problem with this person, this person, this person, this person. And we called out the inefficiencies of that councillor. And we said that the people of that ward resonate to your party. They want to vote for your party. Unfortunately, the person that is holding that position in that ward is not very effective. And John's response to us was, we have a leadership problem. It's the best that we have. And these people, or the people that have come forward to hold that position in that ward, who stood up to say, yeah, I'd like to be elected as the DA councillor for the ward, automatically gets the vote. It's a default vote. So people vote for the DA by default. You don't vote for that councillor. And more often than not, you will find in those wards, people will say, hey, but this councillor, he's like this, he's like that, he's like that. But come the following election, you still vote for the DA. And that councillor effectively serves 3 terms or 4 terms. And we are left with that problem. And what we're saying is, it should not be an issue of diluting the vote. You vote for the best candidate that presents themselves in that ward. And that's what we should be doing. In South Africa, if in a true democracy, you should be voting for the best candidate in your ward, not voting a party. And by voting a party is where we have a problem. So let's say by example, just using examples, so don't hold me to it. It's just an example. Let's say in this ward you have a person like Zukele from the Action SA, and I know Zukele personally, and he's a good guy. If he was standing in my ward, I'd vote for him because I know Zukele. He does good work. So I'm voting for him, not for Action SA. And what I'm saying is, we should be voting for the best candidate in the ward. If that candidate happens to be of the ANC, then you still vote for that person. You shouldn't be saying, no, I don't want to vote for the ANC. I'm saying you vote for the best person in the ward. And if the ANC puts that sort of a candidate in your ward, vote for him. If the DA puts that sort of a candidate in your ward, vote for that person. If Action SA puts that kind of a candidate in your ward, vote for them. If ERPM puts that sort of a candidate in that ward, vote ERPM. It shouldn't be, no, we're splitting the vote. No, we're not splitting the vote. That narrative of you diluting the vote needs to end. Because if you go and you study the dynamics of how you end up with party representation, so there's a calculation that takes place. How many people voted? So again, there's so many things that comes into play. Firstly, how many registered voters? Number 2, how many of those registered voters voted? And based on that, they then say, okay, in Ethekiwni, this is there's an exact formula that calculates how many PR seats a party gets. So it's not to say that, hey, you know what, you have a PR councillor in my ward, that you voted for that PR councillor. It doesn't work like that. It's because of how many votes the party got. That's the amount of seats they need to hold. And it may happen that you'll have a DA councillor and a DA PR councillor. Or you'll have an ANC councillor and a DA PR councillor. So this is how it works. So again, you don't vote for a party. And that thing of, you know what, you're diluting the vote. No, you're not diluting the vote. You're actually strengthening your democracy. Vote for the best person who can serve you, not a party. Oh, Norman.
Okay. So outside of a political structure, which is what governs our local municipalities, most of you in the room will remember back in the day where we had the borough system, you elected a representative from your community that went to council and represented you. And that's what Assad is talking to you about. You're electing the best person because he's known to you. You know the person in your community. The reality, when local government became a party political space, it changed. So what Assad was referring to in terms of PR votes, they take the total number of registered voters, divide by the number of people who actually voted in the day, they divide that by the 110 PR seats, or 111 PR seats that are available, and they get a factor. That factor could be 8,000 votes. So if your party got 7,990 votes, you don't get a PR seat. If you got 8,001 vote, you get a PR seat. So when we want to talk about, respectfully disagree with Assad, when we talk about diluting a vote, that's what we're talking about. Because you can enter into a race, win enough votes that don't qualify you to win a PR seat, but it also dilutes the vote of whoever you took those votes away from. So that's the danger. I'm not sure if a lot of you are aware of the by-election that happened in Ward 110. Sunningdale, Glen Anil, Glen Hills, Mount Moriah. There was a by-election there in April, and in that by-election, an independent put her name on the ballot. Fantastic woman, the type of person Assad talks about. Phenomenal community person, very involved, very capable lady. She contested as an independent. When all was said and done after the election, she managed to amass 389 votes out of almost 5,000 votes. She got 389, more than 5,000 votes. The DA got 2,440 votes, and the MK party got 2,462 votes. So that, which was a DA ward, is now an MK ward with an MK councillor, primarily because of the dilution of a vote. Because the people that voted for her primarily were disgruntled DA voters, and rightly so, because the councillor had failed that community. But you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So when the party removed the councillor and put a new one in instead, that group of people voted for an independent. If you don't have a clear path to victory, the chances are you're going to cause more harm than good. And that's just the message I want to leave with you. It's not fear-mongering. This is the fact of politics. And when you get into council, it doesn't matter that you want a seat with a highly competent person. But if you don't have the voting bloc to change the way this city is managed, nothing's going to change.
Thank you, Norman. And before we wrap this up, to that point, because nothing Norman has said is incorrect. The problem is leadership and aptitude, and the fact that I challenge any councillor to take us up on the Municipal Systems Act, the Municipal Financial Management Act, the Structures Act. If you aren't au fait with the legislation that governs you, you have no place representing a constituency that votes for you. So this is my challenge and my demand to all leaders in Ethekiwni and across our country. Get competent and upskill yourselves. I would like to just give thanks to TFIS Productions for taking us live today. Thank you very much, Bradley. Your team has always supported our organization. You guys are legends. Thank you very much. Let's hear it for TFIS. I'm going to hand over to Chair to close. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here today.
Thanks, Rose, and thanks to everyone. Don't get scared. The votes don't get diluted. The votes don't get diluted. So you'll always hear this, and many people will be like, but you know, if you vote for this guys, the ANC will take over, or MK Party will take over. MK Party took over there because they bust in people in that ward. And the voting percentage was less than 50%. So not many people voted, a lot of people abstained. And this is the problem. So you have people, and this is the reality, and the DA needs to accept this. And obviously the ANC got no choice but to accept it. People are disgruntled with the ANC. ANC supporters are not wanting to support the ANC. They will not get that vote. So come this next local government election, guaranteed you will see that the ANC won't hold a majority in most councils. That's going to happen, number one. Number two, whether the DA likes it or not, the fact is many people don't want to vote for the DA because they've lost confidence in the DA. So who do these people vote for? So there's this choice, and then there's other parties that have come about, including ourselves, if we launch ourselves as an alternative. But what we're saying, in fact, me personally I'm talking about now, I've been approached by the DA to join the DA. I've been approached, well, the ANC always are talking to me. The IFP approached me to join them. Most recently, this new party, Floyd Chivambu, Siabuya, have been talking to me. Maibuye. So Maibuye, in fact, they came to me and they said, we'll give you a provincial seat. Name the position that you want, we'll give it to you. That's not what we want. We don't want to be these, what you call it, whatever it is. We don't want to be. We're here simply to do the work. So it's not that we haven't been, been wooed by these parties. Even Action SA approached myself, but we're not there for that. What we are saying is we're not happy with what you have in terms of your manifesto. Include this in your manifesto. We will give you our support. In fact, EXCO took a decision. ERPM, EXCO took this decision. Any party, be it whatever, ANC, DA, EFF, IFP, whatever, if you take this and you adopt this, we will support you. What more can you ask for? What more can you ask for? We're asking for very little, to be honest with you. And what we're saying is end that corruption in council. End that politics, because that politics is what's putting us in this mess. It's those backdoor deals. So don't dilute the vote, but those same parties are having, John Steenhuisen was having a party with the president. You know about it. They went on a breakaway session in a game reserve. You know. Do you know they were sitting and sleeping together in the bathtub? You don't know. But this is the truth. I'm still alive. I'm talking politics. But anyway, this is the reality. They went on a game reserve. They were all together. They were all together, and it was supposed to be secret. Now we're saying don't dilute the politics, but they're having these sessions in private. And that's what's causing the problem. It's causing this problem for us. It's seriously, it's a huge, 30 years we're in a mess. 30 years, and we can't come out of it. It's getting worse and worse and worse. Look at what's happening in the Madlanga Commission. You can see the rot. You go now to any police station, there isn't a pen for you to use to sign and make an affidavit. But the millions are being used to buy luxury cars. Is that fair? Is that fair? And these parties were there for 30 years. What have they done? Ask yourself that question. What have they done for you? And if you still feel loyal to the party, then we're doomed. No, but we're talking about the parties that are there. We're talking about those parties that are there. Those wards were held by these councillors. You come to my ward, there's in Westville. There's 2 DA wards and there's 2 ANC wards. And ask yourself in the DA wards, are they being run effective in Westville? And the answer is no. It's no. It's an absolute no. It's an absolute frustration to deal with those councillors.
I have a question, because I think the problem isn't just a party problem. I think it's a voter problem. And I would like to put to you guys, because ultimately your autonomy in your voting is your right, it's your business, it's none of my business. But I am going to ask, I'm going to plead for you to demand better from whoever you vote for, whoever that might be. If you align with the new Maibuye party, go for it. The DA, the IFP, the established parties that we still somehow feel safer with because jumping into new waters is just way too intimidating. Whoever you vote for, demand better from them. because you deserve better. And this idea of applauding mediocrity and clapping for a fish that swims needs to stop, because it's our own Stockholm syndrome that has us tied to this idea that whatever we get, we should just be grateful for. And the mindset needs to change from you. So get your neighbors around a braai to demand a little bit more from themselves and from their elected officials, whoever those may be. Thanks.
Len?
Why is voting a right? It should be a privilege, like in other countries. And unfortunately, they don't exercise it, so we're also down the tube for that. Because they don't consider it a privilege, it's a right. And the other thing is, on the manifesto, are you going to send it out to all the different parties? And how are we going to let the population know whether they've accepted to adopt it or not? What is our way forward on that?
So yeah, we either would email it to them. A non-response means a no in our world. If we get a response, we'll publish it.
And we'll
Simple
let the
as that.
media know.
Yeah, we definitely will.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
manifesto will be published
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
format of a charter for now, but it forms the basis of a manifesto.
So Lynn, just to answer your question, right, we have one of the best democracies in this world, to be honest with you. And we mustn't see ourselves as us and them and privileged and non-privileged and taxpayers and non-taxpayers. Because the way the economy is set up, that whilst we may pay rates and taxes and we may pay income tax, etc., you also have what we have, VAT, value-added tax. And every single person in this country pays value-added tax. So effectively, every single person in this country is a taxpayer. So, and by virtue of that, you do have that right. So what we need to do is we then need to go on an education campaign to say, again, the Stockholm syndrome, to say, why do you vote for a party that comes once in 4 years, gives you a T-shirt, gives you a grocery hamper, and you still vote for them? Now that worked in the past, it's not working. I mean, there's video circulating now where the deputy president was physically removed from a person's house. And they said, don't come with this nonsense. We're tired of this. So people are awakening. Social media, has played a big part in that. Many people, even in the townships, do have social media, and they can see what's happening. So again, it's about fixing our country. It's not about saying this party, that party, this. Whoever that party is, do what you're supposed to do. That's all we're saying. You put your hand up to say, vote for me. So when you put your hand up to say, vote for me, then deliver on that. Do what's best for the country, and let's fix this and let's move on. We can't get to a national level. We're saying we just want to fix Ethekiwni. So we just only want to fix Ethekiwni.
In the case of ERPM, we have the ERPM NPC that will be there, and we have the ERPM political party, and the ERPM NPC will keep the political party in check.
100%.
Political party will in a way be driven also by
ERPM.
NPC nationally of what needs to be done and how and when. We have a voice.
ERPM NPC will be the louder voice. ERPM,
Right now, the only voice we have is the NPC
correct,
Yeah.
correct,
This is how the scenario is.
correct.
So we're bridging the gap with the political umbrella. Yeah. We need to let our sound guys go. So if you want to stick around and have a casual chat, that's cool. But I think we're going to be ending this live stream.
Yes.
Thank you very much to all the viewers. TFIS, thank you. And to you, everybody, for attending. Thanks.
Thank you so much.